Welcome to the Disc Golf Prescription Podcast, your weekly dose of disc golf. Hello and welcome to the Disc Golf Prescription Podcast. I'm your host, John Nicholson. Today we have a little bit of it's a special episode because it's monthly in a sense, but we have another episode of Getting Loose with the Goose, aka Mr. Aaron Gossage. Aaron, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, John.
Of course. You're the namesake of Getting Loose with the Goose, which is still my favorite named thing ever, I think. I don't know. I just enjoy it so much. Aaron, where you are in a car, where are you right now?
Oh, I'm in Fountain Hills, Arizona. I'm about to go play practice round for the Memorial. It's a weekday, so hopefully it won't be way too busy. I've made this mistake before. Practicing on a weekend in Fountain Hills does not work. But yeah, it's a fun tournament, so I'm trying to get prepared, and it's a big discraft thing. So I think they'll be happy if I play well. So I better put in some work.
That is always a good idea. And yes, for those of you who haven't played Fountain Hills, it doesn't matter if there's a tournament going on. That place is wild with pedestrians. Like I thought I was going to witness somebody being killed with a disc when I played there back at the Next Generation Tour. I think it was like in 2019. I was like, this is terrifying. I'm honestly scared to throw at certain points in time. It is the Wild West out there, and it is West, so it's appropriate.
There you go. I like it.
All right, now that we are sort of off track from my notes already, which is a beautiful thing, before we go any further, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure there's another thing. Share. Do all the things that help us out. If I didn't have my notes here, I would forget one of those every single time. If you're listening on the podcast app, please leave us a review. Leaving us a review helps us become a lot more discoverable, and that would be awesome. And last but not least, if you're watching, listening at all, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. All right. Now that that's out of the way, and I think we covered a little bit of this already, but I haven't talked to you in... Well, apart from telling you great tournament, I haven't talked to you in like a month.
Yeah.
It's been a little while.
It has been a while. It's been a interesting month too. I'm glad the season's finally started. I've been preparing for a while, and I've been kind of dragging along at the end there, like practicing, but not really like having anything to practice for. So now the season's here. I'm stoked. Every weekend we've got like a goal to accomplish, and it really makes all the practice you're putting in so much more I don't know, it pays off. It feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to... I've always found that in the off season, like it's definitely much more of a grind because you aren't having actual results. Like you could see the results of like what your actual skill level is and how good you are at doing certain things, but there's no leaderboard. You aren't measuring yourself against other people. And for competitive people, that can be hard sometimes. Speaking of which, last time I talked to you, it was still the off season, your off season, especially because you hadn't even played in, I believe the Shelly Sharp was your first tournament. So how did those first couple tournaments of the year go for you?
Pretty well. The Shelly Sharp, I think I shot my rating. Overall, I played that course a bunch of times, so I wasn't like super happy with that. I should be able to shred out there, but it was my first tournament back, so take what you can get. Maricopa was a little bit more frustrating. I shot a little bit below my rating, still managed to cash, but had trouble just like staying focused. One of the things I've been really struggling with in this off season is like that passion, that drive that like makes you want to play well. And I was really getting nervous heading into the season that maybe I just had lost it, But when Vegas rolled around, definitely all came back to me. The like desire to play well, the want, the frustration when you play poorly, the good vibes when you're playing well. So all those emotions did come back, and I think it was mainly just I was getting some practice out of Maricopa and Shelly Sharp, and just not taking it super seriously. So really happy with how Vegas turned out. I had lots of ups and downs and learned some lessons, a lot of things to improve on.
Yeah, I heard the conditions out at Vegas were challenging, to say the least. What were the conditions out there? I didn't ever look up the weather.
Yeah, so it varied quite a bit. The funny thing, in my opinion, was the day before the tournament, it snowed on us, which, I mean, I've never even heard of snow in Vegas, but that was pretty wild. And in the first round, I teed off super early, so it was really cold, crazy windy, just a brutal grind of a round. And I was playing really well through most of it, making good, smart choices. And then I just had like one blow up hole, and it really set me back. But second day, pretty nice conditions, and I managed to shoot the hot round, tied for the hot round that day. So it always feels good to come out and know you can play with the best. And in the next 2 days, I think Sunday was kind of like mediocre conditions, and Saturday was like mediocre conditions that turned into really bad conditions. So overall, just really windy, very cold for Vegas. I mean, at this point, I've gotten used to it. Every year I've played Vegas, it's always cold out there, colder than I'm expecting. But not the best conditions, but we got to get used to them because the whole first half of the season is almost always just super windy, and you got to be ready for that.
Yeah, you guys come to Texas next, and Texas gets a little windy sometimes, especially at this time of the year for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a reason that I just am uneducated on, but it's always windy here. being current, actually, I haven't even brought this up yet. So as you guys could probably tell, my setup looks a little different right now. I just have a plain white wall behind me that I tried to put some light on, so at least it looks not as boring. But Steph and I have just moved into our new apartment, and so I have more of a semi-permanent setup going on now. It's actually, this is a very funny podcast because we are recording this. Aaron is using his 5G there in Fountain Hills right now while he's twirling his mustache, and I like it. And I have not been able to get internet set up at my house yet. I've gone through 2 providers who said they serviced this apartment and then didn't. And now I'm waiting on a Verizon 5G. I guess it's not even technically a modem because it works through 5G. But right now I'm tethering from my phone. So luckily we're both in big metropolitan areas getting that 5G upload speed going on right now. So hopefully it stays intact for the duration of the podcast, at least. So we'll cross our fingers on that one. Let's see. We were talking about Vegas conditions. What did you think about kind of the winners and even the finish in MPO over there? Kat seemed to have it pretty locked up for the most part the whole time. So how was it watching that, or if you did watch it pan out?
I didn't end up sticking around to watch either of them finish, but I did hang out with Ezra quite a bit the next day, which was kind of cool because he was on 4th card, and when he came in, I think only 2 people ever have won from chase card before, and no one has ever won from 4th card. And at the end, he's like, "Oh, I might take like a top 10 or something like that." And then like everyone just was falling apart in front of him, and eventually it came down to him tied for 2nd place, which was pretty crazy. He played a super solid tournament, so congratulations to him. And then of course, Calvin just put the nose to the grindstone that last round, grounded out, made it happen. Seemed like everyone else was just trying to like push and catch him, versus Calvin was playing very steady, smooth golf, and being the man to beat for the day. So congratulations to him too. That was an awesome win. And then on the ladies' side, it was kind of interesting. Like we said, the conditions were so up and down and all over the place that it was tough to really get into a rhythm. A lot of players, I think Colin and Ella both shot a couple like really hot rounds and really like mediocre rounds, and that's just kind of a testament to how tough the conditions were. One day you could be on shredding in it, and the next day, it's completely different, and it throws you off your game a little bit. But they both managed to play pretty well. And then, of course, Kat just played really consistent all weekend and, yeah, made it happen. Took home the W.
Yep. That defending champion there, and I think she's like a 4-time that it might even be more than that, but she's at least a 4-time winner of this event, which is kind of crazy. I think I was listening to Ulti World recently too, and they were saying like most of the time she hasn't finished first, she's finished second.
Wow.
And so it's like I think she finished second to Paige Pierce a few years ago, then second to Paige Shu now, Bjerkes then in like 2019, and then like all the time she didn't finish second, she won it. Okay. So it was kind of a crazy stat line out there in Vegas. And then yeah, I text Ezra literally right as his round finished. I keep up with quite a few of my friends out there, and I don't know what that says about me, that I like text y'all when y'all play well, but I don't text you when you play bad. It seems kind of like a jerk move, but at the same time, I don't feel like you want to hear from me like, oh, go get it, you could do it. Like, you don't want to hear that from me. But no, whenever y'all shoot, like when you shot your 12 down the second day, I was like, dude, what a round. That was fantastic. Then Ezra finished his, and yeah, I saw him. He was like in the lead at that point, but they had so many holes left, or I think he was tied with KJ at that point, and so many holes left. So I was like, great round. I didn't think he was going to take second. Like that was crazy to watch pan out. And then of course, Calvin down the stretch in Vegas, he seems to have a thing for the Vegas tournament as well. So it was pretty fun to watch. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was just kind of like, how is your game feeling in general? You talked about your kind of lack of being able to find your competitive spirit leading up to the season. Now that you've sort of found it, what are you still trying to dial in a little bit, and what's feeling pretty good?
Yeah, so I will say that one of the things that was really nice about this tournament is like, I don't know, it's so easy to like be like, hey, am I gonna be able to play at this level, the next year after this whole off season? And just coming out the first tournament, I put out a hot round, shot I think my best round I've ever played before, and there's still like room for improvement on that round. So I know that I still have the game. I can play with anyone. I shot my rating as well, so that's always a good like, hey, I'm on tour shooting my rating, doing well. So a lot of good things I'm taking away from this tournament. Also, a lot of things I've been practicing this off season. Some of my backhand up shots, a little bit more my touchier shots, definitely coming in handy, throwing them really well, and I'm seeing that improvement come through in my game. First couple rounds I putt really well. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I've been putting a ton of work into my putting, and then I just got thrown off a little bit the second and third rounds, and it's hard to find sometimes. I forget how much of the mental, just getting back into tour life, is about the mental game. You gotta stay focused. You got to be able to bounce back. All these things are different things that you forget about a little bit when you're not playing this competitive golf all the time. So I think just getting back into a groove on all of those things will really help me get my mental game, my putting game, all of that redialed. So overall, I think that I've put in a lot of good work this off season, made some good improvements, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Awesome. That's very good to hear. Yeah, the beginning of the season's always like, man, you're just ready to go. Once you have those first couple rounds, you're like, all right, sweet. Then you get towards the end of the season, you're like, I'm ready to rest a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
With coming into this season, new contract, promotion up to Discraft Elite Team. We talked about that last time. And that Discraft had some sweet announcements about it as well. Is there anything new this year that you're kind of having to adjust to? Something you haven't had to deal with in your past couple of years on tour?
Yeah, so a couple things. Firstly, there is a little bit of added pressure. It's not as much as I actually thought it would be, but there's this kind of like, hey, you're at this top level, you're playing, like everyone else in your team are just phenomenal disc golf players, and you got to play at this level to be like, to maintain part of this group. And I was like a little worried. I was like, hey, this might put a little too much pressure on me. I might, not be able to deal with that. And it's actually less than I thought it would be. And it's nice to know that like, I put in the work to be at that level. So it's not that like, I'm lucky or anything to be here. It's actually the work paying off, and I just keep sticking with the same game plan, and I'm right there with those guys. And then there's a couple nice things about it as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for social media stuff. All those people have channels. They love playing practice rounds. We're pretty like solid team all the way around. Everybody's friends with everyone, or as far as I know. And we get on each other's channels. We hang out. We do all these things, and it's a great situation where I didn't have quite as many opportunities last year versus this year. There's a lot of promotion. They're just like, hey, we'd like to do a video for this. And they'll be like, okay, I'll try to get that done. And then they'll be like, oh, we'll send someone out to help you, or, do this. And there's just a lot more people pushing me in the right directions to build all of that stuff. So overall, a lot of nice things about it. And I'm really trying to work on that social media aspect, which is good. And then we have our websites coming out on the 1st of March. So I'm interested to see
tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, at the time of recording, at least.
I'm interested to see how all that goes too. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on all of my merchandise and my logo, all those things. So I'm hoping that all of that works out well. I don't even know what to expect. This is all brand new for me, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anything. So I'm interested to see what it'll be like.
Well, from an outside perspective, everything's been looking really good. I asked you that question. We talked a little bit about it beforehand. I asked you that question just because I'd seen an uptick in your posting and more stuff on social media, and so I wanted to ask you about it, because that to me has been a new thing for you this year, and so it's awesome to hear that. There's just a lot more opportunities coming your way that you're able to take advantage of and still be able to go out there and perform at the top level. So I'm pumped for you, man. It's been cool to watch. I'm gonna continue to watch for the rest of the year. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is that it's these opportunities where, like, when I go up to the guys at Discraft, I'm like, hey, what are you looking for out of us? Almost every time I ask Bob that, he'll just come back with, I want you to play well. So whatever you got to do to play well, that should be your number one priority. And I really respect that, and I make that my number one priority. And because of that, they try to make all the social media stuff, the uptick and all of this stuff, so much easier on the players. They're not, being like, hey, we need you to come out with a YouTube video each week or things like that. They're like, hey, we got this video we want to get done. This is the time we're going to do it. We're going to have a guy come and help you out with that. I mean, they're doing a lot of the hard work for me so that I can spend my time focusing on my own game.
Well, awesome. I am glad to hear that is happening. That's super cool. All right. Now I have to talk about this because the entire disc golf world is talking about it. Every other podcast I listen to is talking about it. I think most of you at home can probably guess what it is. Gannon versus Prodigy, or PDI, if you want to be specific. How is it? Obviously, I know what my reaction has been to it, and people who I've talked to about it. What has been the tour players' reaction to it? Like, are all the tour players talking about it? You don't have to tell me whose side they're on. But maybe there's a general vibe of what's going on out there. How does it feel out on tour with that topic?
So I'm just going to start with my little story I got here. I've got a good one for you that you'll appreciate. And this will kind of give you the kind of perspective I'm coming from, which you probably already know. But at the All-Star event, this was, after Gannon's announcement and, everything was kind of coming out. I went up to Gannon and he was, talking with Chris or someone like that. I don't know what's going on. So I just went up to him and was like, hey, man, I'm really excited, to hear your sponsorship announcement. I saw your post and I was really, curious to see where you're going. Wish you the best of luck. Said something like that. And me, being me, had no idea that Prodigy was suing him at the time.
Oh, okay. What day did you ask this on?
This was on Saturday.
Okay,
at the All-Star event.
So I don't know what day that was. I'm about to look at my calendar because he announced it. He was leaving on the 13th of February, which was a Monday, which means Wednesday the 15th is when he got sued.
Yeah.
And you asked him 3 days later on the 18th. Okay, perfect. This is great context. Sorry. Continue.
So, and he looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. Maybe this is just a sore subject. So I was like, okay, best of luck to you. And then I went on my separate way. And then later that day, my dad was like, hey, did you hear Gannon was getting sued by Prodigy? And I was like, oh, no. I'm a bad person. So I still need to go and apologize to Gannon because I had no idea what was happening. And I was genuinely curious to see what his announcement was and how everything went. And yeah, so this is a classic Aaron not knowing anything that's going on in the disc golf world.
Yeah, for those of you who've listened to a few of our Getting Loose with the Goose episodes, we consistently talk about Aaron not being up to date on any disc golf news. And Aaron told me he had a story for me. I had no idea what the context of it was. I just knew it had to do with Gannon because I wanted to be able to hear it for the first time on the podcast. But that is classic.
I know, man.
Oh my goodness, that is so
but
good.
I did it.
That is almost.
I thought of you.
That is almost as. That's okay. No, that one might be better than the Paul Macbeth Foundation one. Where
oh boy, man.
I'll be very quick on that one. I had to explain to Aaron that the Paul Macbeth Foundation and Foundation Disc Golf were not the same thing. And there was some confusion having to do with that, and I don't necessarily blame you because that can be a little confusing, but it was a good time having to talk that one out.
I appreciate you correcting me on that one before I said that to Paul or Paul's face or whatever. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, that is great. For those of you who somehow don't know, basically Gannon, you can find a much deeper synopsis of it. I'm not going to go into it super deep here. Gannon basically sent Prodigy a letter after he was already trying to leave, saying that they had breached his contract and that he was trying to get out of that contract because of those breaches. And there was what's called a 30-day cure period piece in that contract to where Prodigy had 30 days to correct any of those proposed breaches that Gannon said they had made. And Prodigy basically came back, fixed technically 2 of the breaches because they paid him his $500 in bonuses and did sent him sales reports. And then they basically said all of his other claims were not breaches and that everything had been cured. Gannon's lawyer came back and said, no, you guys did not satisfy the breaches. The contract is terminated. And then 2 days after that, Prodigy decided to sue Gannon. And then Aaron, 3 days after that, decided to ask Gannon about it.
Yep. That sums it up.
I'm so sorry. So yes, you do need to go apologize to Gannon. My brief take on this situation is one, I know that I'm laughing right now. I do know this is a very serious situation for the company and the individual involved. I will also say I do not have the full details of Gannon's contract. I do not know the full extent of any of these allegations. From what I have seen, it does look like maybe Prodigy did not violate the actual wording of the contract. Once again, I don't know that for sure. But we're making promises outside of the contract to Gannon that they were definitely not satisfying, according to hearsay. I'm going to keep protecting myself with all of these side things. That seems like what the general idea is until more information is presented, at least. Man, I have already claimed that I'm semi-uneducated on this, apart from the details that are already out, which I'm fairly caught up on. Man, I gotta say I'm Team Gannon on this one. Like even if Prodigy happens to be in the right 100% legally and they win legally, like it's a bad look to be promising your most promising. Well, not a dig at any of the other Prodigy players. It's just because Gannon's very young and just won a major. Most promising Prodigy player and promising him stuff and not following through with those, so much so that he wants to leave you. That's not a good look. And even if they are 100% in the right legally, I don't think that's going to look good overall. So I don't blame Gannon for having an amazing year and wanting to go somewhere else and probably make a lot more money when he can't necessarily even trust his current company to follow through on the things they'll say they'll do for him, because there's at the very least a texting record of that taking place. Whether or not that is able to hold up in court, which from the discgolf.law video doesn't sound like it would. Sounds like it's just going to be the wording of the contract. Then that's a bummer. But yeah, I'm Team Gannon. I'm gonna put that out there. Hopefully that's okay. I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation. And again, I don't know many of the details, and I don't know how controversial I want to get on this. But
don't.
I don't know. So overall, it's a bad look on both of them. Regardless of who's at fault, what's going on, I think that it shows a bad image for both sides. But I'm not sure if either side had much they could have done about it. I feel like both sides were kind of forced into this situation. I feel like from Gannon's perspective, I think that this is probably, I don't know how egregious all these things Prodigy are doing, but they're probably not treating him, super well, and he wants to get out of this contract. Like you said, he got offered a bunch of money from somewhere else, and he went about it in a way of saying, hey, you're breaching the contract, let me get out of it. I probably would have gone in it from a, maybe try to get the company to buy him out, if that's even possible. Again, I don't know anything about it, but that leads to a sticky situation where, now he's got this whole lawsuit on his hands. He is only 17 years old, which is the biggest thing on Prodigy, in my opinion, is that it's like a company versus a 17-year-old, and it's just a kid, and it would be so much better if they could just work things out, make a deal that is, good for everyone. But then from Prodigy's perspective, it's hey, this is our best, player. He is our future for our company, things like that. And when he comes out and makes all of these claims and stuff and wants to just, get away from us, it's going to cost us a ton of money. And he did sign a contract, and a contract does mean something. So, I don't know. From both perspectives, it's hard to say who's at fault, especially because I don't know anything. But I think that they both don't really have many choices. I think that what they're doing currently is kind of what both sides have to do, and it doesn't look good for either one of them. So.
Yeah, I think I think you're definitely right there. I don't want to me saying I'm Team Gannon, saying that Gannon's 100% in the right. Neither one of them are, regardless of how you were to look at it, are in the right, 100%. And they both are wrong to some extent. Gannon is trying to leave a contract that he signed and may not be 100% right for it. And I don't know. There's so many different points of view that you could take on this, whether it's legally, morally, is Prodigy trying to take advantage of Gannon by having him sign that contract and promising him things outside the contract? Was that done maliciously? Was it, is that just happened to happen how it did? I don't know any of these answers. So who knows? I hope they sort it out well. I actually was talking about this the other day, when Ricky left Innova, there was definitely rumblings of Innova pursuing legal action with Ricky. And then anytime Ricky was asked about it, he said, I'm not talking about that. And it was handled very out of the public eye. So I wish this could have gone down more like that for both Prodigy and Gannon's sake. I think that would have been a lot better for them. I'm not going to lie, for everybody on the outside, this way is a lot more entertaining. I don't think that is necessarily a good thing, though. So, yeah, I don't know. There's so many things you could say about this situation.
Right. This is one thing I will say firsthand that I've seen is Gannon is this, he's a kid, right? And he's going through a really tough time with this whole situation. This is something that like anyone going through any point in their life would struggle with. And he has, very little life experience because, he's still a kid. And that's tough for him. And I noticed at All-Star event, I noticed at Las Vegas Challenge that he is not the same as he was last year. He's always this goofy, immature, having fun kid all the time. Loves playing disc golf. Is throwing a disc all the time, and he was very low key. Like wasn't very bubbly or anything like that, and that's hard to see. And then as a testament to that, this Las Vegas Challenge might be the worst finish Gannon's had like since the beginning of last year. Like the whole last season, he finished so well. And this, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, really quickly. I don't know if you listened to Brody's podcast. I caught up with it yesterday, and they had Gannon on the podcast with Brody and Yuli. And I think Gannon was under the impression he was going to be able to throw an open bag until the lawsuit came through. And so he only had like 8 Prodigy discs with him until and this was the day before the tournament when he was talking about this, until his mom came and brought his old bag. So I think he only was able to practice the Vegas courses with like 7 or 8 Prodigy discs.
Gotcha.
And then so I don't think he was even able to know what his discs were doing before it was tournament time. So considering that fact, with the conditions y'all played in, he played freaking fantastic. but I just wanted to say that because you were talking about his finish. I didn't realize that had happened until yesterday, and I was like, holy crap, like, had somebody given me a bag that I'd used before, but I wasn't super familiar with right in the moment, right before a Pro Tour event, dude, I wouldn't have even come close to cashing. So props to him for finishing still as well as he did.
Yeah, true. I didn't know that either. So,
but I have I got to do it. I have one more thing to say on this topic. And these are all jokes. I know how serious this situation is. I promise you that. But since I'm Team Gannon, there's been this thing where stuff has been going around saying free Buhr, which sounds like free bird, which makes me think if Gannon goes somewhere next, he should go to Innova, because they would then have the Thunderbird, the Firebird, and then you could be the free bird, which I think would be great. If he loses the lawsuit, he could then come to Dynamic Disc, because he'd be a felon, a criminal. Justice would be served. Any of the disc puns out there, obviously these are all jokes. I honestly hope the situation gets settled behind closed doors with a good outcome for both Prodigy and Gannon. Like, Prodigy overall has done great things for the sport, great things for players, as far as advancing player contracts back in 2014. They have a lot of awesome people on their team, people that I hope like continue to get supported through this, because they would get hurt if Prodigy were to suffer any major financial loss. And obviously, I hope things turn out well for Gannon in this situation, because, like, as you were saying, that's a really hard situation for anybody to be going through. I don't even want to count this. I'm 15 years older than Gannon, or will be 15 years older than Gannon soon. And, like, I can't imagine going through that and how hard that would be. So for him to be 17 and going through it, that's got to be rough. So with all the jokes aside, I hope a very amenable agreement happens between the two of them, and they can both kind of move on better for it in the future. I think we said all the things about that.
Yep, we talked about a lot of stuff, but we didn't say anything too controversial, which is good.
I hope not. I outright said I'm Team Gannon, but Team Gannon. I love that guy. So that's it is what it is. So moving on, you're playing the Memorial this week. You're about to practice Fountain Hills right now. which course plays more to your strength, Fountain Hills or Vista del Camino?
Great question. Probably Vista. I think there's a lot of good forehand holes out of Vista, but overall, I've just been really, I've been liking my game. I've been putting really well, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Both these are birdie or die courses. You just got to keep your drives in bounds, make your putts, and you're going to shoot well.
All right. Very, very easy explanation. All right. After the Memorial, which I think you're going to do great at, we have Waco. I don't know if you saw, but somebody, if you're not watching on video, wow, this screen is super small. This is like my regular point at myself with my thumbs thing, and my thumbs are barely in screen. Anyways, I was pointing at myself as the somebody, and somebody is playing Waco, or I'm on the registration for Waco. We'll see. We'll see if I play. I plan to play, but I have not been practicing. I've probably played less than 10 rounds over this entire off season. I think that's probably accurate. Who you got on Waco, me or you? Who's winning?
Good question. I think it's a good course for you. I think you can shred it there for sure. Waco's an interesting one. I think you got to, I don't know, find your groove. You got to be hitting gaps. You've got to be staying in bounds, and then figuring out what the wind's doing. I think together with all those things is going to be what's gets you somewhere in the tournament. Last year, I actually finished 5th place in that. It was one of those where I kind of squeaked into it, kind of like Ezra taking 2nd place, where a bunch of people dropped down for me to get that top 5. But I think that it's got a lot of variety, and I really enjoy the course. So hopefully the weather is a little better than last year, because that was brutal. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. I was hitting all my gaps pretty well this off season, Vegas, stuff like that. So I'm interested to see how it turns out on an actual wooded course. And then this will be one where I have some expectations for myself, because I had a good finish last year, and see if I can live up to that, or if that adds a little extra pressure. It's hard to say. I missed cash at Vegas last year, just so you know. So this was my best finish at Vegas thus far, which always feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun when you hit similar events from year to year, and you can track oh, I crushed my performance last year. That's nice. Even when there's course changes and everything like that, but you versus the field at the very least.
Definitely.
Well, awesome. I'll have to catch a practice round with you in Waco so that I can get an idea of how I should be playing the course. I will have to plan to land about 80 feet behind wherever your drives land. But other than that, I feel like I could attack it pretty similarly.
Yeah, we've got pretty similar games, except for the 80 feet or so.
The gigantic distance disparity, and that's like golf shot distance. When it comes to actual distance, it's way worse than that. Oh goodness!
Definitely get around. But
oh, it'll be a ton of fun. We'll have to get I'll have to hit everybody up and see if I can get a few practice rounds in. That's for sure. Well, that's everything I have on my notes. Was there anything else you were wanting to talk about, buddy?
Here's kind of an interesting thing. A friend of mine, Chris Taylor, is doing a biometric kind of thing in Texas that I'm going to be participating in next week before Waco. And so I thought I'd just kind of give that a shout out, get it on people's minds. I would love for the sport to really get some actual science behind some stuff. So he's trying to track how people are moving to figure out, different form, stuff like that, what, actually come up with some science behind it. So I'll try to keep you guys updated, and on the next episode, see if I have any results, or I can let you know how it went and stuff like that. But I'm really curious. This will be my first time participating in something like this, and I'm interested to see what people have to say about my form, if it's correct or if it could be improved, what those pieces would be potentially, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And I'm not trying to ignore you by looking away right now. I'm trying to find Chris's Instagram handle so I can direct people to it, because Chris is awesome, by the way. He's a super smart guy. He's a golf coach and also loves doing disc golf stuff as well. I'm not sure how much coaching he does in disc golf, but he does a ton of the biometric like analysis type stuff, biomechanical things with disc golf. Talks about a lot of stuff with Double G and David Wiggins and how they're able to throw so far. Very intelligent guy. If you want to follow him, I think the easiest place to follow him is probably on Instagram, and it's coach_Chris_Taylor. If you guys wanted to follow him there, he's somebody who I want to get on the podcast eventually as well, because I think that'd just be a really fun talk to have with him.
Yeah, he has different things to say. And that's what's so valuable about speaking with different people, is that he's not saying the same thing that everyone else is preaching. He has his own ideas, his own outlooks on things, and it just like broadens your spectrum of what disc golf is. It's just another perspective, another way of looking at stuff. So I was a big fan. He reached out to me this off season and had some pointers for me that I listened to and have been trying to work on a little bit, and I'm interested to keep working with him.
No, yeah, he's got some really cool stuff. Like we talked, because I have a kinesiology background, and we were talking one time, and he was explaining to me how this motion right here that I'm doing with my shoulder is horizontal abduction. And so I just wanted to clarify that before I said it. So it's what people think of classically as like the power pocket. He was stating that the faster that you can horizontally abduct is the highest correlated thing with distance. And I was like, that's really interesting. I would have never thought about it that way. Like, if you could just do that motion faster, which I know it's easier said than done, and obviously you can't just try to improve that motion in itself, but if you can improve that motion, you throw farther because the disc would then have more velocity to it. So it's just interesting stuff like that he talks about, which is fun for me, being a kinesiology nerd at least.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Other than that, I've got the memorial coming up, so the Discraft, all that stuff's coming out. They are going to have our website, and then our Tour Series discs will be coming out a little bit after that. Other than that, I'm just happy the season's going, man. I love being back in the grind mindset, playing a tournament every weekend, practicing all week for that. I love it. It's my favorite part of the sport.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear the season's getting in the swing of things, and you're having some fun out there. We've talked about your website that's coming out tomorrow. Hopefully I can post this either today or tomorrow morning. That way people can see it there as well. But where else can people kind of follow what you have going on?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. The easiest thing is to follow me on Instagram, Aaron Gossage, Disc Golf. And then I have my link tree posted in my bio there, so you can always look in my link tree, and I'll have all the other like links to videos, links to the website, all that stuff if you want to check it out. So, and then of course, if I have anything new, I'll probably bring it up on the podcast next month.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we need to even do it like early March 1, so we can do it in person or something like that. We barely squeaked February in, doing the last day of February. Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, and thank you to everybody at home for tuning in. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. I even have written in my notes here, I didn't correct it from last time when I said that I would see you next week. But actually, I think I'm going to have a bonus episode this week, so I might just see you in a couple days. But hopefully that happens. Other than that, see you in like probably 2 weeks. So thanks for joining the show, buddy, and we'll see you guys next time.